Rashida, let's get it.
It's hard. It's a cup of friendship. Join in. Grab a cup of friendship. It's hard.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hi. Once again, this is a cup of friendship, and we are coming together to share a conversation, of course, like we like to do amongst friends. And as you can see, there is one part of our four that is missing. So, hey, Sigrid.
Hey, Sigrid.
But she is actually out of town, so we are going on and moving forward with this conversation. But I'm pretty sure you all will see her in the next go that we come together. But to get started, so as we know that mental health is such a big deal nowadays, especially amongst the Black culture. And I'm happy, and I'm pretty sure we all can say that we're excited because it's becoming more of a normal conversation amongst our people. And so just to kind of talk about things that maybe we've ran across in terms of our personal lives or things that we know about self-care, mental health, all of those things, how all of those things can actually work together to make us even whole and healed. And so we'll get started. Our co-host, Rashida Potter, this is one of her topics that she actually wanted to discuss. So she's going to lead out, and then, of course, we're going to make it as normal of a conversation that we can, but we hope you enjoy. And please, if it's something that is said that touches home, or you can think of a comment that you want to make, please do so in the comment section. I promise you we'll go back and be able to see it, even if we can't necessarily talk about it right now, but we will be able to acknowledge it and make comment on that. But please interact, because as we know, I'm pretty sure in your household or someone you know has dealt with or is working on capitalizing on making sure the mental health part of you is in a good space, as well as your family. So that's what we want to talk about today. So again, my name is Kara Terrence. This is
Rashida Potter
and
Tanya McDougall.
All right, and so we're going to get started. So Rashida, take it away.
I'm here. But I was at work and we had to take a mental, I guess you can say, mental health class. Mm-hmm. And it's basically teaching you how to be a first aider. Okay. Whereas if someone, you was to walk up to you, or someone walk up to you and say, hey, I want to commit suicide, you would know what your first response should be and what language you use and how you're supposed to interact with them to stop the process. Not necessarily stop it, but make them rethink what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And one of the things in the class was about self-care, that the first aider has to have a self-care plan because of what they encounter. They have to be prepared for it mentally, physically, emotionally, because you can't break down and cry when someone's talking to you about something happening to them or something that they saw. So they say you have to have a self-care plan in motion to survive what you're going through as a first aider. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to Tanya, and I was like, I did not realize self-care is not a facial or a spa treatment or a pedicure or a massage. It's really self-care. Are you really hitting the natural point of your life, the spiritual point of your life, the social, the emotional, the financial? It was even one of the topics for self-care. Mm-hmm. And they gave us a sheet, and it had all of the 9 categories on it, and you had to pick 3 and write down what you were going to do for that week to self-care. You know, if it was, one of them was environmental. Mm-hmm. And in the class, one of the examples was one of the first aiders went on a hike. She was by herself, and it was it was just a hike, a trail. And she had a planner, her journal, her book bag, some snacks, water, and she actually decompressed from the week of dealing with being a first aider, and she was just saying how if I did not have that self-care plan intact, I would be needing a therapist myself. You know what I'm saying? She was just saying from some of the things that go on, and it's 24 hours a day. Like that line is ringing 24 hours a day. So I was saying to Tanya, I said, what is your self-care? Like, what do you do? And so she was just like, I do stuff, but I said, and then Kara was saying, and massages is not self-care. It is, but it's not. What are you doing emotionally to really fill your cup back up to help the next person? Mm-hmm. What are you doing financially that'll say, okay, I'm going to budget this week, and I'm going to do this week, and I'm going to meet this goal. Mm-hmm. So they was just saying that in the field of when you are a first aider, that you have to make sure your self-care plan is done weekly. It's not a monthly thing. It's a weekly thing that you have to pick these topics and go and make sure you do those 3 things.
Wow. And what were the topics again?
It was like social, emotional, physical, environmental, financial, and I got the paper, and we can definitely look at it later. But it was just like what are you doing for your mental? What are you doing for your, and one of them, one girl put sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to get over 5 hours of sleep this week, I'm going to make sure that my schedule says I can get over 5 hours sleep this week. Mm. Yeah. And Dominic, we was at an expo today, right, and he mentioned rest and sleep being 2 totally different things, and I don't think people understands that.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Resting is me sitting there in front of the TV, or me sitting on the couch reading a book, or even cooking. Mm-hmm. Some people say cooking is a way of resting and therapy, and but sleep, your eyes is closed.
you ain't sleep, and you ain't doing
nothing else. And so it was just amazing. And when I looked at that, and I said, you have no self-care plan.
Wow.
You don't self-care. You give and you give. And even with me being in the funeral home business, we give and we give, but what are we doing to make sure we can still give?
And just like you mentioned the word decompressing from, because speaking to the fact, because one of my questions was going to be from first aider, so it's not just a person that's with 911 or with EMS or first responders, but it is because you also are a teacher,
right? And
you deal with what age group?
I'm with the pre-K.
Pre-K.
But we all have to have it, because if I'm somewhere and someone walk up to me, because I'm a reporter, right, I have to be prepared for whatever comes. So if we're working in another area and I got an older kid and they come up to me and say, "Hey, I just saw my mom kill herself," you got to be in a space to help them through that. So they're teaching us how to be first aiders, right? Like AIDERS,
right?
Yeah,
right. And that makes sense. And then because I know, and then Tanya, you're in mental health
with adults,
and then collectively like ministry. So and I'm just thinking of other areas that would evoke the possibility of that conversation coming across, or where someone is going through a traumatic situation, and we would, in essence, need to be able to separate our emotion,
right,
and be able to get to a place where we can assist them in the best way possible. And so I just wanted to make sure that it was understood. It's just not from the, like what because when you first started, I was like, oh, 911. When you hear words like that, you only associate, or I was thinking about like 911, EMS, like those type, or police even. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone also were inclusive to other areas that could actually represent as a first aider.
Right. It's a person that is able to listen without judgment. You no fault is what it is. That when that person comes to you and that you have the correct first response and use the correct language. Like if you have someone that's suicidal, you're not saying, well, what you finna go do, kill yourself? You're using the right language and the right words and honestly listening with no judgment is what it is. And not that people don't want to give, because you do want to give, but you got to make sure you're able to give. And they were saying with first aiders, they deal with so much. Like a lot of first aiders are like your suicide hotlines. You're the first person they talk to, like on the 911 call.
Right.
But they're not people that can diagnose you.
Right.
And they're not people can tell you, about your treatment. But I can listen and let you get it out.
Right.
Where you're not toting that around.
Right.
And not necessarily saying, I feel you, but I can hear you.
Right.
And that's what they were teaching us, that you can hear it, but don't tell them, oh, I understand, I've been there.
Right.
So basically, though, with the approach that you're taking today with self-care, your question is, how do you be that person and then replenish you so that you can continue to be that person, correct?
No, mine was, I don't have a self-care. Like, I don't self-care.
For yourself.
For just when I saw it, I was in general asking, because that's when I asked you, I was like, do you self-care? Like, even in...
So that evoked the question
Yeah.
of,
Yeah,
do you
okay.
take care
being
of
in
yourself?
the class. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So just listening at what you're saying now and based on when you first asked the question. So one of the things, like when you just said, what do you do? So I work with adults that are mentally handicapped, but I also work with employees that they just need somebody to listen. So in the run of a day, I have a lot that is, I would say, poured into me. That I'm that first aider. I'm listening. For me, one of the main things that I've noticed that I do consistently is when I get home, whether it be for 5 minutes or whether it be for over an hour, I take that time for me in that vehicle before I go into my house. I didn't look at it as self-care before, but that, for me, helps my mental, that I'm not carrying all that stuff
That you've had all day.
yes, into the house, because indirectly what you'll end up doing is forcing other people to have to deal with something they're not even aware of. Even if it's the fact that all of that stuff got you in a sad state. Now you got everybody in the house looking around saying, what's wrong? What happened? What happened at work? And you're like, you're nothing, but you don't look like nothing. Another thing, one morning I woke up a couple of weeks back and I read this scripture, and it said that, the question was asked, why is it hard for we as humans to give God glory? The trees do it every day. The flowers do it every day. And it began to break down how everything that God made, it was to give him glory. So much to the fact that when the flower blooms, it's glorifying God. At the bloom is the sign of glory. And I was like, wow. It was saying, that everything that God made. So what I did that day was I made myself, I was thinking environmental when you said it, but I made myself see everything that God made as beautiful. Whether it was the tree, it was, it was just people in that perspective in that one day. But it gave me a different, I felt really good that day, because I refused to see anything other than the fact that even if somebody had a bad attitude, it was God made you and you have purpose. And I think for us, I love what we heard earlier at the expo was the fact that we have to be, I guess one of the things is learning the true definition of self-care so that we can create
Right.
a proper plan for whatever that is.
Because I never ever would have thought environmental would have been a process to heal yourself, or self-care yourself, or make sure that it was. You always hear social, emotional, physical, mental. You're gonna, that's part of the body. You're gonna always hear that. But to hear financial, environmental, those words don't normally come into self-care because a lot of people look at financial as being a stress.
And I was going to say, I think, or I wonder if when you call it out line item by list, it all goes back to your mental. Mm-hmm. Because if you got financial issues, that's going to affect your mental,
mm-hmm. Right?
Which causes stress, which causes other areas to now be affected. And it's amazing how, just saying, using that for example, that one thing could then trail off into so many other areas. And even from the physical, if you're diagnosed, or you might not even be diagnosed yet, but you're having issues, whether it's pain or discomfort or whatever the case may be, that begins to affect, because now you, based on where there's something you heard or where there's something you researched and you trying to self-diagnose, then that begins to play on the mental. And then going back to if there's a financial restraint or challenge, that then affects you being able to get the care that you process. So all of those things begin to work together, but not together for you, together against you because of the negative aspect. Right. But going back to what Tanya was saying, when you were talking, I was thinking about that scripture, think on these things that are lovely, that are true. And it's funny when you think about the Bible as a whole and the word and how God instructs us, it's all about the mindset. It's all about the mental and having your mind, or training your mind on how to navigate through the things of life that happen. So when there's a bad day, but let me find the good in spite of that. So it's like God said, I know you're going to have a bad day, and I know there's going to be problems, and I know that there's going to be issues in reference to even the list that you gave. But if I think on, find the good in these things, or beyond that can bring my mind back to a settled place, that then I can begin to think, or Holy Spirit can now begin to give me insight on how to make the plan for my finances, or make the plan for my environmental care, or make the plan for my physical care. And just like when we were talking earlier, a lot of times we get on the bandwagon of stuff. Yes. So it's like, okay, well, self-care, you got to go get your massage, and you got to go travel, and we harp on those things. And there's nothing wrong with those things, by the way. So we're definitely not saying that there's an issue with it. Yeah. But that's self. Because even going to those places, if your mindset is still, you may let go for that moment, but guess what? When it's time to get ready to go back home, your anxiety is setting back in. Right. Because now you got to go back and deal with the reality that you just left at home. Whereas based on the first aider care that you were talking about, and the training, and then thinking on the positivity, and you add all those things together, then when you go to your trip,
that part,
you know what I mean? And you don't think about those things, and then you come back, now you got a different understanding as to, not only can I enjoy myself, because I know that my situation hasn't changed, but when I come back and still got to get back in the reality of it, I still got to implement, what I learned, how to self-care. But then even when that self-care is challenged, because you're dealing with the situations and circumstances that come up just in the day to day. Then you got the positive words, thinking of what God made and creation, and which automatically evokes a good feeling, because we serve a God who is powerful and is good.
Yes.
There's no evil attached to him. And so we keep telling ourselves we want positivity. We keep telling ourselves that we want what's good. But we got to also create the habit
Of
that
having it.
directs us to what's positive and what's good, regardless to what we may be facing. Because sometimes, depending on what we're dealing with, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight change. Your mindset may change, but the I guess you could say the tangibleness catching up to your mental and it all coming together and making the complete change may take some time.
Right.
But it's that mindset. And when you were talking earlier about those things, I could see how it all plays together in reference to the mental. So.
Yeah. And the self-care part, what made me stop and think was you automatically assume to do something like to the body
Yeah.
for self-care.
Right.
And that is not necessarily true. In an aspect, it is good to get a massage. It does feel good. It does relax your body. But what else are you implementing to make sure you stay relaxed?
Sustain, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I like, because what you said just had me thinking when Carol was talking was, I think what my hope is, and we got to do it again so that we can have the actual test.
Yeah, I'm going
with
to bring the
the-
paper and y'all fill it out. Yeah.
But because a lot of times we focus on the external, but there's so much that we can do to help us internally with self-care that
Yes.
a lot of times when you do that, it really wouldn't matter if you missed your nail appointment or if you
Yeah,
missed the
'cause you would still be
massage.
good.
Yeah,
You're
because
still-
you're good.
yeah.
One of the things, by the way, insert the Mother's Day gift that I got. I've noticed even part from me now, self-care. I mean, remember I used to post all the time on Facebook and it would be the different sayings and everybody said, girl, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. I realize now I would have been doing that because somebody was telling me that I needed to do it. What I'm realizing now is that I don't have to post it. But journaling is so very therapeutic
It's amazing.
until at this point, I look forward to it. Like, that's what I need to do. That's what I have to do. And it brings a settledness in my mind. It brings a settledness in my heart. And I even noticed this morning when I woke up and I was doing it and I wrote something specifically for each person. Created other books since I didn't know if you was going to charge. So I said, well, let me just go and find some notebooks in here. But that was another note. Okay, so what I did was I said, okay, this one is for, this one is for, this one is for, this one is for. And I wrote all that stuff down. Afterwards, then I prayed over it. Then I prayed over myself. Then I prayed for the day. And then I thanked God for the opportunity to be able to spend time with y'all. Then after that, I thanked God for the opportunity to be able to go. It's just changing changing our perspective, changing our mindset, because I need to make sure in here is good.
Yes.
I don't need nothing wrong with my heart. I don't want nothing wrong with my mind. I want my soul to be
And
intact.
you don't even
So
realize those things are going on the inside because you're thinking you're okay. Your mind's going 1,000 miles a minute. And one thing I learned when I went through my divorce, my mom gave me a journal. She brought it to me, and she said, "Stop crying and write it out. Stop crying about it and get it out."
Get it out
And
of your head.
yeah. And so when I wrote it, which it was long, not the first. Yeah, honey, whew, I was getting it out, but my mind was clear.
Yeah.
All that stuff wasn't running in my mind again. And, I wasn't having those thoughts anymore because it was gone.
Yeah.
And when I wrote it out, and then it just became habit, because like when I would at first it was only when I would get frustrated. Oh, let me grab my journal. But then it became, I need to write about the good too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just the bad
Right.
or the aggravating stuff. And then it became, it helps me.
Right.
So I'm going to see about me. I mean,
And that's the
yeah.
thing, too, because when your mind is bombarded with so much stuff, then it's like to respond to the things that you need to respond to. The only thing you have to respond is your emotion,
Right.
because it's and then of course we know what that means, because now you're making judgment calls based off of temporary aspects of you, when you need to be settled, you need to be clear, and you need to have clarity of what's going on. But when you're bombarded and your emotions are here, and you're telling yourself, okay, I got to make a decision, and I got to make a decision fast, and I need to just make a decision. Yeah, you do need to make a decision, but is the emotion, you need to keep the emotions in the emotion box, because there is a reason for that, for those. But then you need to be able, and when you were saying, like, thinking, going through the process, and I was saying, okay, yes, it may sound like that's a lot, but when you get in the habit of it,
Right.
it becomes
It
automatic.
becomes automatic.
And you don't even think about the steps per se. It just becomes a part of what you do. And then when you, like you said, when it attaches to, because I got to make sure I'm good.
Yes.
But you got to believe that you got to make sure you're good.
Yes.
Because if you don't, then anytime something happens that can sway you, and it will.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, we got emotions, we got feelings, we are human. But the thing is being able to place those things in the right place,
Yeah.
so that you can pull from the area, because that self-care is already happening and that process is already seated in you. Then when things happen, then now you have another avenue to make the adjustment, or to make the decision, versus only depending on what your capacity is allowing you to, and that a lot of times is in our emotions.
Yes.
So
And I was just going to add to when you were saying trust the process. That was said today in the expo. Trust my process. What process God
Everybody's
has
different.
for me.
Yeah.
My process is not Kara's. My process is not Tanya's. So trust the process that God has you on, and when you implement things that you can pull from. Because when and I never thought journaling would be self-care. I didn't. I just thought it was a way for you to release that anxiety, that pressure, that depression, that whatever you were dealing with at that time. But journaling is very well self-care. It's a part of something that can help you channel those emotions.
It goes back to what the lady said at the expo, which was profound when she said it, but so simple. Self-care is taking care of self. And for those that are watching, whatever that process is, or whatever it is that you put in place, that you're going to implement to make sure you're good, just take this advice. That does not have to be validated by anybody but you. You know what works for you, and then do that. A lot of times, we look for validation, and then we try to compare what other people are doing, and then we get frustrated. We say it ain't working because I'm still stressed. I'm still bombarded. Mentally, I'm still not feeling my best. Because when you're not feeling good mentally, it affects your body as a whole.
Yes.
So
It does.
you do what works best for you. Because sometimes, based on, okay, you're here, you're alone. So it might look weird with you just sitting in your car, and you can come in the house and be by yourself. You see what I'm saying? So no, once somebody shares something with you, you don't automatically expect, or you share something with somebody, don't automatically expect them to try it. Just create what works for you, that's going to help you to take care of you, and don't look for validation from anybody. Whether you prayed about it or not, if you know this works for you, then work it.
Yes. And as we get ready to close, because as we know, we'll talk about this again at some point, especially so Rashida can bring in her sheet so we can actually do this in real time. But we just want to encourage you to, like Tanya just said, look at yourself and be real. Be real with
Right.
yourself
Be
and be
honest.
honest.
Yes.
That is a key thing that I learned over the course of just my getting through different things. Self-care plan into that, so that you can make up a space that's important called you.
Right.
That's
You
good.
have to be reminded you are valuable. You are important. I'm sounding like the help now.
You
You are smart.
But you are. So we're going to table it for now. But please, hopefully what you've heard so far, you can definitely start, if for no other reason, thinking of the term self-care for me.
Right.
Not doing this necessarily the same thing, but just that one term, self-care for you. And let's see how that works. And we want to hear what that looks
Yes.
like. So put it in the comments. Whether it's months from now, you come back to this same video, post it. It's still going to be important, and it's still going to mean something to us.
Right.
Yes.
So we hope that you enjoy for today. We thank you again for tuning in to A Cup of Friendship. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
It's hard. It's a cup of friendship. Join in. Grab a cup of friendship. It's hard. Take a sip of friendship. Join in. It's a cup of friendship. It's hard.